Hello everyone, I'm Yvonne, a children's librarian here at the Manchester City Library, and I would like to welcome you to Elementary Experiments. Here we're going to do experiments and activities aimed at elementary grades 1 through 6 with a focus on STEAM, our science, engineering, technology, arts, and math. This spring, we're going to continue to have our in-person events at 3:30 p.m. on the second Wednesday and the fourth Tuesday of the month. We will also be putting up our videos at the same time as our in-person elementary experiments. If you would like to join our in-person activities next time, please visit our website and register. Registering for the event ensures that we have enough supplies for the activities and kits for everyone who attends to take home. Any extra craft kits we are going to put at the children's reference desk, and they will be available for anyone who wants to do the craft at home and is in the correct age range. Now that we have covered all that, let's get into this week's elementary experiments. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's elementary experiments, where we are going to be talking a little bit about food science. Specifically, we're going to be looking into a couple of different additives and exploring that a little bit. And so additives are things that are put into food to make them look better, taste better, be more healthy, and sometimes less healthy. And that's one of the reasons why it's always good to look at the nutritional information on the food that you are buying, just so that you know a little bit more about what you are eating and putting into your system. So our first activity is going to be looking at some supplements that are put in to make us more healthy, specifically iron, and where it can be found in our cereal. All right, everyone, welcome to this week's activity, where we are going to be looking at iron in cereal. And I have stolen this beautiful title, the Magnificent Breakfast Cereal, as in magnets. It's very punny, and I hope that we get some good results. So we do need kind of a lot of things for this one, and they are a little bit more unusual than maybe the things we normally do together. So for this one, you might need to do a little bit more planning, possibly shopping before you're able to do this at home. But we'll run through it anyway, just in case. So first of all, what I needed to get was my 3 different cereals. You can, of course, do more or less because you are setting up your own experiment kind of at this point. But the suggestion was to find 3 different cereals, one cereal with an iron content of 25% or less of the daily value or the total amount that you're supposed to receive in a day. So I have got that here, my Raisin Bran at 6%, and I created my beautiful food science lab sheet with my Raisin Bran. Then, according to my lab sheet here, I have my Frosted Flakes, which come in at 40%. So that's my cereal that is between 25% and 75% of the daily value of iron. And finally, here I have my Toasted Oats. This comes in at 80% of the recommended daily value. And so that definitely falls in my 75% or greater cereal. So those are our ranges that we want to try and find cereal within, and the cereals that I found that fall into those percentages. And I, of course, wrote those down on my sheet as well as labeled the bags so I won't get them confused. So I've already taken out about 1 cup or possibly a little bit more into my different bags, and that is the amount of each that we are going to use in our experiment. It will be easier if you guys have a food processor or a blender that you are able to use for this. If you do have one of those, then you will put in your cup of cereal as well as a cup of water, and basically blend that up until you can't really see any like floating specks of cereal. You just want it to be one smooth kind of blended sludge. For us who do not have a blender, I am going to attempt to crush it without one. I am going to use my lovely PVC pipe as kind of a rolling pin to try and get them really well crushed. And then I'm going to mix them with my cup of water to hopefully get a decent blend. We're going to see how well it works because I want to see if it is possible to do without the equipment. The other things we are going to need is, of course, our water here. We are going to need some measuring cups for the water, as well as a bowl to catch all of the water once we use it. A couple of the more tricky items is we're going to need a plastic bottle that has a smooth surface. So most water bottles do have like the little ridges inside of them. We want a smooth surface because we are also going to be using some of our strong magnets here. So these are actually rare earth magnets, so they are very strong. You can try this with magnets, like more regular magnets, but I think the stronger your magnet is, the better this is going to work. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to cut the bottom off of this so that it becomes a funnel for us to pour our smashed cereal and water into. And we are going to tape our magnet to the middle of this so that as we pour our wonderful sludgy mess of mashed cereal through our smooth-sided bottle, then the iron that is mixed in all through the cereal will be able to be sort of shaken loose and will stick to our magnet as it passes through. That's the plan. We will see if it works. So of course, what I'm going to need to do first to prepare for that is to actually cut the bottom off of this. Remember, plastic can be pretty sharp. So if you're not confident in your ability to cut safely or smoothly, ask an adult or an older kid to help you. It's always good to work with a partner when doing an experiment. All right, I've got my magnet secure and my bottle ready. So now I'm going to go ahead and try to smash up my first bag of cereal and see how that goes. If you have enough bottles and enough magnets to make one per bag of cereal, that is definitely going to make this go faster. I actually do, so I'm going to do that while I mash up my cereal. And then I will meet you back here to get to our extracting of the iron. So I have got my bottles ready with the magnets, with their ends cut off to be the funnels. I have gone ahead and done my best to hand smash up all three of my cereals. I think some did better than others, and I'm honestly not sure that I was able to smash them into small enough pieces to get the iron to come out. We may actually need to use like a food processor or a blender to really get the separation that we're trying to find for this one. But I'm going to continue on and see what the actual final product is. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take I'm gonna go, I think actually from the um, most amount of iron to the smallest for this one, just because I'm not sure if we're gonna get any results. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to take our mixture of, or our squished and smashed um, cereal, and I am gonna put it into my cup here, my measuring cup, and then I'm going to add a cup of water in and stir it up to try and make that slurry. Right. So this is what I was able to do just by crunching everything up by hand. Definitely still some pieces in there, but we're going to run it through and see what we can do. So what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that our magnet here is going to be, we're going to run the liquid over the top of the magnet. And we're going to do that nice and slow and make sure that our bottle is directed at our large bowl so we are not making a mess. We're going to pour it through and see if we extract any iron. Honestly, it feels a little bit like we are like panning for gold, but iron in cereal rather than gold in like a stream. All right. So I actually do think we might be collecting some iron, even though it is not as blended as it could be. But I am hitting a spot where it's being a little bit thick. So if you do get to a point where your cereal is like really thick and is just not pouring, you can go ahead and carefully add in a little bit more water. Once we've poured through all of our cereal sludge, what we're going to do is we are going to put one more half a cup of water into our measuring container, and then we're going to pour that through, and that'll get both the rest of the cereal out of here and hopefully clean off the rest of the cereal from our magnet as well. Okay, now when it comes to removing the iron, again, it kind of depends on what supplies you have. So if you are like me and you have several bottles, then you can actually take this bottle here and place it carefully somewhere flat like this so that it's not going to roll off with your magnet on the ground side. And then just let it air dry. So that you kind of have a pellet formed. I think they actually suggest that you remove the magnet and then allow it to air dry so that it'll all stick to itself. I'm not sure. I'm kind of torn on what I want to do because I want you guys to see the iron, and I'm not sure if I should just go ahead and try and scoop it up now or wait. Because if you do only have the one bottle and or the one magnet, what you're going to want to do is probably go ahead and remove the magnet so that the iron will be able to move more, because otherwise it's just going to stick to the magnet. And then once you remove the magnet, you would want to take some sort of like cloth or something, like a little bit of either towel or possibly even like saran wrap, and try and collect the iron and pull it out and keep it all together. So what I think I'm going to do is I am going to let this sort of drain and dry while I try the other ones, and then I'll kind of come back to it and see what I think the best way is to show you guys my results. Okay, so this is my 40% iron frosted flakes. We'll see if we get any iron out of this one. Also, the flakes I don't think ground up to as fine a powder as my toasted oats did. So that might be another reason why I'm guessing that we're um, not only not only is there a lesser percentage of iron, but I don't think I was able to smash the cereal quite as finely or as into small pieces as the toasted oats. Um, so I think that might be a variable that is a little bit uncontrolled in this experiment for me. So we'll see. You guys can see it's definitely, there are definitely larger chunks in this one. All right, so I think I can see some small specks of iron, like just around the very edges of the magnet, um, but it's very hard to tell. Um, and it's definitely a lot less visible in this one. Again, I think that might be as much because I had a hard time smushing it all up as because there is a smaller percentage of iron. But I do think there is some there. So I am going to set this one aside as well to dry. And we will run the experiment through one more time with the smallest amount. So that's going to be our 6% from our Raisin Bran. Okay, so with our final one, again, definitely can see the chunks in here, and it is a bit liquidy, but we're going to give it a try. All right. So this one, I do not see any iron. Honestly, even if we did this in a blender or a food processor, I don't know if we would see any iron because 6% is a very small percentage. But I am going to put this aside while I clean this up, and then we are going to take a look, a closer look at the actual iron residue, and I will fill out my experiment, my lab sheet, and that will be the end of this experiment, at least on my side. All right. So I went ahead and took my magnet out and then wiped the bottles. Again, not the best way to look at it, but it worked well enough. I did fill out my sheet and I wrote down my observations, saying that in the 80% and 40%, I did see like a pellet of iron form, but not in the 6%. And then the relative iron pellet size, I just described what I saw. So in the toasted oats, I sort of saw a rim of iron all around the outside of the magnet. In the frosted flakes, which was the 40%, just a very small bit of iron, like near the end of the magnet as it was flowing out towards the neck of the bottle. And then the Raisin Bran, not applicable because I didn't see any iron pellet form at all. And then I went through and I did do a little makeup. I made little paper squares, and I did wipe it down so that I could try and show you guys. So this was our 80%, our toasted oats. Definitely can see some there. Just a teeny tiny bit on our 40%. And then our 6%, I could not find anything. So that is my look at the 3 cereals that I got. You guys might have found completely different cereals or just used whatever you had at home. So your findings might be quite different than mine, especially if you did have some sort of food processor to help you. But like I said, even if we don't get all of the results perfectly, we still learn something from this. And I think that is pretty cool. One thing that I might suggest if you also don't have a food processor to try and get better results is to actually let your crushed up grains or crushed up cereal sit in the water for longer, I think that might have helped, especially because the corn, which was my lower percentages, I don't think really absorbed into the water as much. So that's something that you could do to try to have this experiment go a little bit smoother or maybe have better results at home without a food processor or a blender, is to just let it sit overnight maybe and before you pour it through your bottles. But that is just another hypothesis of mine. So I'll leave it up to you all to do the experiments and find out if I was right or if it doesn't really make a difference. I'm going to finish cleaning up and then I will meet you guys back here for our craft, where we are actually going to be looking at added pigments. So less stuff to make you healthy and more stuff to make the foods attractive to your eye and make you want to eat them. So here we are to do our candy chromatography. So chromatography is actually a group of techniques, but the one we are going to be using is using chromatography paper. In our case, we're going to be using sort of the cheap version of that, which are coffee filters, which you can find in our kits, along with our instructions, some popsicle sticks, and of course, the candies that we are going to be testing. Now, remember, these candies are for experimentation, and so not for eating. Hopefully, if you're really feeling the urge, you can find some candy of your own to eat afterwards. Just remember, any candy that has come from our kits has not been kept in like strict food safe environments and has been parceled out by people's hands to get to you. So please do not eat when you're doing your experimentation. It's just a really good habit to get into. All right, so I think that's everything in our bag. We are going to need some extra items. So that is going to include some glasses. Honestly, it would be better if they were a little bit taller than these, but it's what I have. You're going to need some water. You're going to want a toothpick, a pipette, or a straw that is going to help you transfer water, small amounts of water, into the places we need them to be. You're going to want a clean lid or plate. I've got some binder clips. Also, tape would work instead of binder clips. I have scissors, a pencil, and some salt, which is going to help us a little bit in our chromatography. So as mentioned before I got carried away with everything that we need, we are going to be using a coffee filter as our paper chromatography today. You can get more professional actual paper for chromatography, but it is a little bit more expensive, so it just depends on how serious you want to take your experimentation. So basically what we do in paper chromatography is we are going to use the paper to separate different parts of our solution. So our solution is something where we mix two things together and they are kind of unable to be visually separated. So in this case, we are going to take our M&Ms and we are going to put them in a few drops of water and sort of extract some of the color from the outer shell into each of those drops of water while keeping them carefully separate. And then we are going to add that onto our paper filter strip. So we're going to add our fluid at the bottom of our cups and paper, and the color that we lifted from our candies will move up the paper and then slowly separate. So there are different properties in like the different individual dyes that are mixed together to make the colors on our candies. And those properties include solubility, which is how well that they dissolve, polarity, electrical charge, and other chemical properties, so that as they are dragged up the paper, some of them are not able to get as far due to these properties. And so what we're hopefully going to see at the end are sort of different stripes of color as the liquid moves up the paper, so that we can see each individual dyes that make up the candy coating. We'll see how it goes. As always with experimentation, there are no promises. We can only try and see what happens. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to take our 3 candies. There are going to be 3 in the kit. You can use these if you are able to pick up a kit from the Manchester City Library, or you can choose one of these or all of them from home if you are unable to get our kit, or if you just for some reason are like, wow, those are all the worst colors ever. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our straw, pipette, or toothpick, and we are going to put some little puddles, 3 separate ones, in our separate areas. Oh man, maybe I need to get a straw for this actually. 1 second. So my toothpick I'm actually going to use later, and I'm just going to sub in one of my popsicle sticks, and we just need like a little drop of water, not very big, and we put them in 3 places on our dish or lid that are going to be separate. Then we're going to take our M&Ms or your colored candies, and we're just going to plop it right on top of the drop. So it sort of like squishes down, but also we don't want to like splash it. So use gentle fingers. Now basically we are actually going to want to let those sit for about 3 minutes so that we can be sure that the color coding has really like mixed in with our little water drops. While we are waiting for that, I'm going to go ahead and cut some strips out of my coffee filter. I do have my scissors here. I'm going to go ahead and trim them down so that they are all the same length, although I might have to adjust that when I actually go to put them in their containers. Now I have 3 strips that are about the same width and about the same length, and I'm going to use a pencil to label at the very top the color that I am going to put on each one. It is important to use a pencil rather than a pen or a marker, because pens and markers use ink that, in much the same way that our candies do, use different types of dye to create that color. And therefore, if it gets wet in our experiment, it will cause that dye to run as well, and it will contaminate our experiment or put something into our experiment that is not what we are experimenting with, and they mess with our results. So definitely try and find a pencil to do this with. Okay, now I am also going to go ahead and draw a pencil line about 1 inch up from the bottom on each one of these, which is going to be where we will put our color once it is done marinating. So our little line here is going to be our baseline. That is where our color is going to start on each one of our strips. I think I've still got a little bit of time to let my candies sit, so I will meet you back here when they're done. All right, I think that is enough time. So now I'm going to take my candies and carefully remove them. So there you can see the candies and then the solutions of the candy coating and the water that we've created. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take our pipettes, straws, toothpicks, or craft sticks, and we are going to put some of this solution of water and candy coating directly onto the middle of the line of the correct strip. I might just go ahead, since we have our these popsicle sticks. I think I might just put one for each color, because we don't want to use like one side of the stick for each one. We want to do them separately, or at the very least, if we're using something plastic like a straw, to wash off the straw in between. Otherwise, again, we will get that cross-contamination, because if we do orange and put the orange on our orange strip and then use the same tool, especially without washing, to then go into the blue, we are going to get some of the orange dyes mixed in with the blue color. And so when we see the color separate, we won't be able to tell which M&M or which candy coating they actually came from. So definitely keep that in mind as we do this part. So to make sure we have a good concentration of that color onto our strips, as you see here, we have started, and you can see that there is some blue on there. But what we're going to do to try and get the best outcome is we're going to let these dry for about 1 minute, and then we are going to go back and using the correct stick for the correct color, we're going to repeat that process 3 to 5 times, letting the coats dry in between, just like you would do if you were adding more paint layers to a painting or like a wall in a house. So once you have your strips prepared and saturated with enough of our solution, what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that our glasses are ready. Now again, what we ideally want is for our paper to rest about 1 inch above the bottom of our glass, and then we are going to want to either clip or tape it on to our popsicle stick that we're going to set across the rim so that it keeps it at that inch above the ground. And I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go, so we are going to do a little bit of experimenting within the experiment to see what is best. I do have some like alligator clips. I do also have some tape as kind of like a backup. So I think this is what I'm going to end up doing is I've got my paper or my alligator clip, and it is just clipping on the edge of my coffee filter to the stick, and then I've actually got some tape which is holding the actual craft stick or popsicle stick here, so that we have that sort of inch clearance between the bottom of our paper and the bottom of our glass. Now I am going to want to remove this for when we put in the liquid, because I don't want to accidentally spill the liquid onto the paper while I am pouring it in, because that would immediately mess up all of our gathered pigment here, and kind of make me have to redo all those beginning steps of dabbing on, drawing, dabbing on. So we're going to be careful with that. I am going to go ahead and get my other two clipped on at the correct sort of depth. And now, before I pour in my liquid, I am going to add just a teeny tiny bit of salt, because I have heard that adding a little bit of salt can make it better. I don't want to add very much because we really want, I think it's a 0.1% solution of salt. I haven't done the math to make this actually accurate. I'm just going to sort of put it into a teeny tiny bit to try and dissolve, and hopefully that'll work well. Okay, so now when we fill up our glasses, we want to make sure that we don't fill them up too high. We just want the liquid to barely touch kind of like the bottoms of our strips. Definitely, we do not want them to go above the line that we drew where we put our pigment. We want the liquid to be drawn up the strips through capillary action to get to our pigments that we've placed there. So let's see. Okay, so now basically what we want to do is we want to leave these alone where they will not be jostled, and sort of wait for them to creep up. So the liquid is going to be pulled up through capillary action, which is actually pretty cool in of itself. And basically how it happens is the intermolecule forces, or the forces between the different molecules in the liquid, will adhere or will stick more strongly to the solid surfaces that are close by. It really only works if you have very small spaces that the liquid can sort of pull itself up into. Because what happens is if you have a wall and you have our molecule, and it will stick more strongly to the wall than to the rest of the liquid, but it still sticks to the rest of the liquid. So it sort of pulls itself up onto the wall, or it is attracted to the wall, and then it kind of pulls the rest of the liquid up with it. And if you have two walls that are close together, this is happening on both sides. So the liquid is kind of inching itself up both sides of the small area, with that combination of surface tension, which is the liquid sticking to itself, and then the adhesive forces of the container and the liquid. It's really, really cool. And this is also basically how plants are able to move liquid and nutrients from their roots up to their branches and leaves. But we're going to use it in this chromatography experiment. And we're just going to watch it as it moves up. And we just want to make sure that we stop it before it gets to the end of our paper. Because that can also kind of make our findings a little bit more difficult. So I might stop it when it gets past my popsicle stick here. I'm just going to have to wait and see. And this is, of course, another part of this experiment where it is going to take time. You don't want to leave it untended for too long because, like I said, it might sort of get away from you. But this is a good time to pull out a book or play a board game and just check back in once in a while to keep an eye on it. And that's what I'm going to do. So I will meet you back here when it has done its thing and the liquid has pulled itself all the way up, at least to the popsicle stick. All right, so here we are with all of our samples. The water is either to or just about to the popsicle stick. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully take the samples down. And then I am going to use my pencil to mark the highest point that the liquid has gone up the paper. Again, using pencils so that we don't bleed into our experiment with any ink that we don't mean to add. So, and the good thing about using clips instead of tape is that I can, or as well as tape in my case, is that I can just unhook here and lift this out. All right, so we want to do this here. And now I would want to put them in a safe place to dry. dry is actually going to be where you're going to be able to most look at the colors. For this video, I'm probably just going to examine them wet just to save time, but for yourself, just so you know, it probably is going to be better. So now this is where you want to examine your paper and see how the color has moved up with the water, and see if there's have been any separation of color. You're looking for like bands of color or a place where there is a color change, or a spread of color. Because remember, we're looking to see if one of the dye colors has been left behind as the dye kind of moved up the paper. So this one I'm looking at the orange. Again, I'm never sure how this is going to turn up on camera. This one I'm not really seeing that much color separation. It's definitely maybe darker at the bottom, so it is possible that we do have like a lift of like a lighter color at the top, but it's a bit hard to say. Here's our blue. This one is similar. I don't see, at least not when it's wet, any distinct like blue or yellow and green separation. So I'm not 100% sure. And this one here is our brown. And this one, even while it's wet, I can actually see some color differences happening. So we definitely have the brown down here at the bottom, but then it shifts into, I think, a much more distinct sort of yellow tone. And then at the very top, I'm actually seeing some blue at the very top. So I think that the brown was definitely made with a combination of different dyes, possibly even some like red around this sort of middle area in between the dark and the yellow. Again, I think that it would be easier to see once it was dry, but the brown especially definitely has a combination of dyes that were put together to form this one color, and you can definitely see them separating as they move up our chromatography paper, and that is pretty cool. So as I said, I'm trying to save on time here to get us through, so that is going to be the end of our craft. I hope that you enjoyed, and I would love to see or hear what kind of results that you guys got, especially if you used either different colored M&Ms or different candy entirely. So I hope that you did get some visible results. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes maybe they just used one dye, or perhaps our paper is not like fine enough to be able to see those details. But whenever we do get that difference, it is really neat to see that we can prove that these colors are made that way, even with what we have lying around, like coffee filter paper. Anyway, I'm going to actually clean up now, and I'll see you guys here before we talk about our next elementary experiments. All right, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit about food science and additives today in elementary experiments. I will put in a few suggestions of some of the books that we have at the Manchester City Library if you'd like to learn a little bit more about food and how food is made, and just some weird, interesting facts. We definitely have more than even I'm showing to you, but I think that it is a good place to start. This is our last April elementary experiments, so our next elementary experiments is going to be on May 8th, where we are going to be looking at cave formation, actually, which hopefully will be pretty darn cool. At this point, we are most of the way through our April vacation, but definitely check out our calendar to see what else is going on, as well as our May the 4th Eve party, which is going to be on May 3rd. All those things are going to happen before I see you either here online or in person if you would like to sign up for our in person elementary experiments on May 8th to talk about caves. Until then, I'll say goodbye.